Hey, greetings, everybody. It's Friday, February 24th, 2023. This is your TCSA weekly video update. We're going to talk about what happened some this week at the General Assembly and what we are looking forward to next week. Obviously, one thing we're really looking forward to is County Government Day on the Hill. That is Monday and Tuesday, February 27th and 28th in Nashville. We're at the downtown Doubletree Hotel. Got great turnout already, close to 350 people registered for that event, so we think it's going to be a great time. We will be having board and committee meetings Monday morning. We've got a lunch session with Steve Summerall, the assistant treasurer, coming over from David Lillard's office to talk about some programs the treasurer's office has going on at lunch on Monday. Then we'll go into membership meetings that afternoon. For county mayors, there will be a representative, Michael Leftwich, from the Attorney General's office there to answer questions about opioid settlements. I know there's been a lot of information going out about that, and we think that will be a very good time for you to get informed and ask your questions. I'm not running through everybody who's speaking. We've got some other great folks coming in to talk to groups. We've got Leader Lamberth coming in to speak to the mayors. The Commissioner of Agriculture is going to be around. I think the highway officials are having Commissioner Ely come in and visit to talk about the governor's transportation initiative, because it's going to be up moving next week. So there's a lot going on. Our breakfast Tuesday morning, we're very pleased. We're expecting to have Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton there, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, Comptroller Jason Mumpower, and then the governor's trying to do everything he can to make sure on his schedule that he can get in there. He's got a lot going on that morning, but he's going to try to be there at the end of the breakfast for a few minutes at least to visit with you all. That Tuesday morning open to kind of anybody at the conference. After breakfast, we're also going to have Mary Shelton, who's the director of the state's Opioid Abatement Council, and Dr. Stephen Lloyd, who chairs that council, there on hand to talk with you all about the funds, what the council's doing, how the money can be used to help address the issue of opioids in your communities. So we think there'll be some great information. We also are going to get materials to you to help us by going over and meeting with your legislators, your reps and senators to talk about these important proposals that are going to be up. Let me run through a few things that happened this week, and then we'll talk about what will be on tap next week in the large set of committees. There was, on the education front, we saw a few things happen. There was a bill that was House Bill 344, which would have mandated that all school nurses be paid on a salary schedule similar to other licensed professionals. So a school nurse with the same years of experience would have to be the same as a licensed teacher. Some counties pay their nurses that way, but a lot don't right now. And the members of the subcommittee were concerned about imposing that additional cost on local governments. That bill failed in a House subcommittee this week. There is a bill that would expand the voucher program, the education savings account program that passed a few years ago and has been tied up in litigation. There's a proposal that passed the Senate last week to expand that and add it into Hamilton County. The bill that would do that in the House is House Bill 433. It is scheduled to be heard next week in the K-12 subcommittee in the House. So that's out there. It does not add in additional students as far as the numbers that are capped in that, but it would add in an additional county. Previously, the bill only applied to Shelby and Davidson counties. That is in the Senate, at least, being brought by a senator from Hamilton County and saying he thinks that's something that's necessary for his county. So that will be up in the House subcommittee next week. There's a bill that would affect all governing bodies locally that is House Bill 448 that is requiring a public comment period at public meetings. Many counties already do this and make provisions for it, and the bill allows the county commission to adopt rules and regulations regarding the period of time provided, how many speakers may provide, a cap on the amount of time a speaker can talk, and things like that. So we've just been monitoring that one. We think as long as you all still have some control over how you're going to manage your meetings, which the bill definitely provides. That's a good thing. I think a lot of counties are already providing those public comment periods. A couple of things on the election front we'll talk about. There has been a House Joint Resolution moving that would amend the Constitution to move the county election cycle from May, August to August, November to align it with the state primary and general election cycle. The thought is it would save a lot of money by not having that third election during major election years, and it also might improve turnout at in local primaries. We saw pretty low turnout in a lot of counties back in the May primary last year. But that's a long way before that would happen. It has to pass the General Assembly this session, come back and pass in the second session in 2 years from now, and then go before the voters. But that joint resolution is moving forward. A second one that would impose 16-year term limits on all state and local elected officials is not finding as much support, and that joint resolution has been deferred a time or two. Do not think it's going to move forward, in part because there was a similar bill that failed this past week. That was House Bill 118. It was proposing that all local governments hold referendums on whether or not to impose a 16-year term limit. That bill failed in the election subcommittee this past week. Back to education. I know a lot of you are interested in the third grade retention policies and some of the changes that are being proposed there. That was a hot topic with school boards in the off session. It has generated a lot of legislation. There's probably 20 to 25 bills on that topic alone. So the House Education Administration Committee this past Wednesday at 1:30 held a long, extensive hearing and heard testimony from groups about the third grade retention policies, and had a long discussion about which way to go with those. Those of you who are interested, I would encourage you to look at our legislature's website. They've got a great streaming and video archive program, so you can go and find. It would be the Wednesday, February 22nd hearing of the House Education Administration Committee when they did a third grade retention hearing. You can watch and review that testimony and the discussion that happened there. A bill that moved in the House and is up in the Senate State and Local Government Committee next week is one that we've seen several times. It's come out of Knox County, but a lot of counties are supportive of this. This is a bill that would allow limited electronic participation in a county commission meeting by a commissioner who has to be absent and can't be physically present due to a health issue. Or there's a couple other permissible reasons why they can do that. It came out of an issue where there was a Knox County commissioner who was, because of some surgery issues, unable to attend the meeting missed several meetings, and his district went unrepresented during that time. So both Senator Briggs in the Senate, who is a former Knox County commissioner, and Representative Wright in the House, who's a former Knox County commissioner, they have brought this bill several years in a row. It's House Bill 389. It moved in the House City and County Subcommittee last week and will be in the full House Local Government Committee. And as I mentioned, it's on the Senate State and Local Government calendar. We don't know if they'll get to it next week or not, but it is up to be heard soon. That's out there. A bill that we've also seen several years in a row, it's House Bill 346, would repeal the provisions in state law that provide for automatic increases in elected officials' salaries at the county level. Those, as you all know, are based off of salary increases that were put in the state budget for state employees in the prior year. This bill would repeal that and make it strictly a local decision. It was deferred in the City and County Subcommittee this past week. That bill has consistently run into some significant problems, but it is out there and wanted to make you aware of that. Turning to next week, there are a couple of major initiatives we're very interested in that are going to be up in committee while you all are in town. First of all, the governor's major transportation package will be in the House Transportation Full Committee at Tuesday at 8 a.m., right when our breakfast is going on. But I know some of the highway officials may step out to be in the audience and show support at that committee hearing. That bill is the one that will provide an additional $300 million into the state aid highway program. It's a one-time infusion of funds into that, but it also includes county governments in the funding that is generated by the enhanced fees on electric vehicles. So that's something we think is going to stabilize the revenue stream for a lot of county highway departments as gas taxes decline over time as electric vehicles become more and more popular. So that will be up. That is House Bill 321. Sponsored by Leader Lamberth. It's being carried by Chairman Howell in the House, and it will be in the House Full Transportation Committee that Tuesday morning. The next day, Wednesday, March 1st at 10:30 a.m., the Senate version of that, Senate Bill 273, will be up. We think the bill's in great shape in both chambers and are expecting it to move forward next week. Another major initiative a lot of our counties are very interested in, this was coming more so from some of the growth counties, but it would affect all counties in the state. There is a caption bill that is now on notice next week. An amendment is being developed that would take some of the restrictions off of which counties are eligible to levy impact fees and development taxes. If you're not familiar with these, some counties and some cities, either through a charter or through a private act, had authority to levy development taxes and impact fees on new residential development. Some have it on commercial development as well. A stop was put to all of that in the early 2000s and 2006 when legislation was passed that limits now that only counties demonstrating a 20% growth in a census period would have access to adequate facilities taxes. This proposal is saying, like, let those decisions be made at the local level, whether it's an impact fee or a development tax. Cities and counties, regardless of their size, regardless of their growth, if they need to use these tools, they need to have access to them. So that bill will be up definitely in the House Property and Planning Subcommittee Wednesday. It is, my notes here. That is House Bill 1206, and it will be at Wednesday, 10:30 in the House Property and Planning Subcommittee. It is also on calendar in Senate, State, and Local. We're at Senate Bill 820. We're not sure if they're going to get to it in the Senate because they've got a longer calendar and there's some budget hearings in there as well. But we certainly are seeing pushback from the realtors, the developers, as you might expect. They've got some concerns about this. So definitely while you're in town, we're going to have some materials on that legislation that you can share with your legislators. If that's something you would like those tools for your county government, we definitely need you to talk to members of those committees next week while you're in town. So that's the other major initiative that's out there that's definitely moving next week. It is number one on the calendar in the House Property and Planning Subcommittee, so we expect it to be discussed for sure over there. We talked a little bit about having some folks in to discuss the opioid settlements. There are a couple of pieces of legislation moving: House Bill 1367, Senate Bill 637, that would expand the framework the state has in place for how that money is shared between the state and local governments, and it would add this new wave of settlements into that. There's 5 new settlements that the state is looking to sign on to, and they want local governments to participate in as well. So that would inject additional money for dealing with the opioid epidemic into the state and bring it down to local government to allow counties to have funds to help address the abatement crisis. So some great things going on. We'll have legislative reports for you, as well as some talking points on some of these individual specific pieces of legislation that we're supporting. And we hope you'll come in, visit with your members. You can go to session Monday night, hopefully have dinner with your representatives and senators, and then see them at the breakfast again Tuesday morning, visit with them in their offices, attend some of the subcommittee meetings and committee meetings. That will be very informative, and it will be great to have your presence here in Nashville. So we look forward to seeing you next week, and otherwise, have a great weekend. Thanks.